And just like that, we are back. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm your boy 12 Kyle, and I gotta say, folks, this is a special. Well, I mean, they're all special podcasts, but this one's really special, man, because I got a young cat on here, man, who I've been listening to, and is a. I can't say he's a podcaster because he's really more than a podcaster because the guy literally has like 15 different podcasts. Like I can't even catch up. But father, entrepreneur, hustler, my man Baylor the Great is in the building. Baylor, what up, man?
Hey, let me tell you something. This is like this is like prime time show right here. Like I got this, like you know how you walk out, you shake hands, the band just finished playing, the crowd going wild. I'm still standing up because I'm soaking it all up. I'm soaking it all up. I'm gonna sit down and I'm ready. You know what I'm saying? I'm ready for tonight's show.
Hey man, well thanks for coming on, man. I told you I had to get you on so we could chop it up. You're from the city of Angels, LA. We're going to get into later on, talk about, where folks can find you and listen to your pod and everything like that, or your podcast, I should say. But one thing that I realized, and I was going to tell you this off air, but I'll tell you this on the air. One thing I realized, like probably the first couple of times I heard your podcast was, you do what they call bending the rule. And what I mean by that is I have when I was in college at South Carolina State University, I minored in broadcasting, right? Mm-hmm. And I had my mentor, one of my broadcasting mentors. He said he would always say, "Kyle, you can't bend." He said, "You can't bend." And so one day I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Bending the rule means like you have to introduce yourself, and then you have to, as you're talking even more, kind of reset and tell people who you are." And like the first couple of times I listened to your podcast, I realized like he don't introduce himself. He just get on there and start talking. But here's the genius in that, because the thing that my professor would tell me is that if you bend, he said it's only okay if it works. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, that don't make no sense. He was like, well, no, he said, it's only okay if it works. He said, so that means like your audience has to be prepared to listen to you. So the way that I took it was he don't introduce himself because the people that show up know what time it is. They know who he is. There's no need for introduction. Let's get right to it. So I thought that was really, really dope. So I don't know if it's something that that you were doing. I was like, but he don't say bye. He don't say hello. He just, because like one of the podcasts I was listening to, you were just talking, and I wasn't looking at, like, I subscribe on Spotify, so I wasn't looking at the thing to let me know how much time was left. Mm-hmm. And I'm driving in the car, and you said something, and then it went out, and I'm like, oh shit, did I hit a dead area or something like that? So I look at the thing, and it's like zeros, and I'm like, oh shit, he's done. I was like, he didn't even say bye.
Yeah, no, early on when I first started to record, I did the intro and the outro, and I actually kind of do that with my sports show. But with my flag show, BTG for President, that's my audio statue.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So and you were correct, spot on. I have a core set of listeners, you know what I mean? And including yourself, you would hit me up after the episode or during the episode. And I also have people that just send me text messages.
Okay.
The same people, like, and I am okay. And I don't check my downloads or nothing like that. So I don't know how many downloads I get a month. I don't. And I haven't checked that since the first 2 months that I started recording.
Wow.
And because that's not my goal or anything like that. My goal is to create content as a time capsule. So when I'm gone, the people that I love, the people that I respect, and even people that don't know me can go back and just listen to
facts
a journey through my life. You know what I mean? Because some of the events, it keeps going. You know what I mean? I might have some shows where I do interview people, or I might have some shows where we come up with a game or something like that. But I'll also have shows where it's like an episode 8, but then between episode 8 and episode 9, you might have about 20 shows.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because episode 8, I might be saying, my son had just finished freshman basketball. You know what I mean? And then episode 9 is like, yo, he's at a new traveling team. You know what I'm saying? Something
right.
like that. So, no, it's just talking because life is not scripted. You know what I mean?
Facts.
And so I like to talk to people. And honestly, I would love to go in these corporate meetings and just talk the way that I talk. Because I just feel more comfortable talking that way. And so that's why I don't introduce myself all the time and things like that. Like, people know who it is. They know I have a certain cadence to my voice. And
right.
There's certain things that I repeat. Like, you know what I'm saying? I know I say that a million times in my show. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, that was something that I picked up on, man. And like I said, like my professor told me, if it works, you can do it, and it clearly works for you. That's something. It's always little things that I try to take from everybody's podcast when I listen to it. Now you guys listening, you saw the title, California Love. Like I said, my man Baylor's from LA. Talk to me, because I'm somebody who grew up in South Carolina, grew up in a little town called Florence. So my exposure to LA was through the medium of the media in the 80s. So you can only imagine whatever news that I got. And of course, we didn't have, we didn't have the internet or anything like that. So, it was just, we had our own perceptions of what LA was like. So what was it like growing up where you grew up? I mean, was it cool? Was it bad? Was it, how was life in LA coming up?
Well, are we breaking it up by decades or just in general?
Just either in general or, actually do both in general and in the decades.
Well, in the 80s, it was, that's my favorite decade right there by far, hands down. I think the 90s got the best music, but I think the 80s got everything else. Okay. I would say the 80s and the 70s are battling with fashion. I love the fashion. But growing up in LA in the 80s, that was the peak of, now I wouldn't say the peak, but that was the beginning of gang banging. The hardcore, you know what I mean, where colors were, separated at that point in the 80s. You also had the crack epidemic, you know what I'm saying, that hit the streets. That's the gang culture in general, but that's to the side. Other than that, I was just a regular kid running up and down the street, had to be in before street lights and things like that. I was, a typical kid, latchkey. You know what I mean? I'm sorry to tell on my mom, but, you know what I'm saying? But I was walking home in the 3rd and 4th grade by myself with a key around my neck. You know what I mean? Because moms had to work, work late. We know how that goes. But it was fun. And then, got to middle school. That's when I got really introduced to gang culture.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because, we had the whole sagging thing, because we took on the image of the city that we stayed in. So just like whatever they were showing y'all on TV, we got the same thing, and then other things that may not have reached y'all at that point.
Gotcha.
But yeah, my mom, she didn't tolerate. She wasn't strict. My mom wasn't strict at all. You know what I mean? And then my dad, my dad didn't live with us.
Okay.
They were separated, but I didn't have that male guidance. That's why I said off the air, I was like, you was the older brother that I needed. You know what I'm saying? And I do have an older brother, but I would say for a large part of my life, or the important parts of my life, I should say, not the large part, but the important parts of my life, I needed that role model, not just an older brother, but a role model, because my role models came from a different world. Also, my role models came from watching the Cosby Show, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Yeah, so I had an older brother, but what I needed from my older brother at that time was like a role model. You know what I mean? Because when you ask me, basically or when you said, you knew I had some older siblings, and I do. I have an older brother, I have an older cousin, and they pretty much schooled me on the hip hop around that time. So that's why
Gotcha.
I got a soft spot for like Wu-Tang. You know what I'm saying? Red Man. Yeah, exactly, exactly. I know cats like Spice One. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I know these cats, the Alcoholics. I can go on and on, but these are the cats because they're 7 to 10 years older than me, so
Mm-hmm.
they know that part, they know that era, and I grew up listening to all that stuff. Um, but I say I needed that role model, especially in the '90s, because that was the peak of gang banging. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? To where whatever neighborhood you stayed in, you ultimately became a part of.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So when you listen to K Dot and Good Kid, Mad City, and you hear that where your grandmama stayed, no, that is a real question, and you better have your answer.
Right. Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean? Whether you lying or not, have an answer, have a reply, because
Right.
you don't want them to reply for you. You know
Right.
what I mean? One of the worst rebuttals that I got was, "Hey homie, where you from?" Natural response, "Hey homie, I don't bang." "Oh, you
Mm-hmm.
bang in a day." What now?
Damn.
What do you do after that? You just got to put
I
your
don't know. What do you say?
hey, it's put them hands up. Put them hands up. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But I say I needed that guidance and that role model because I needed the confidence. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? I knew my older brother played football and basketball at the high school that he went to, but he didn't go beyond that. But even that small part of my dad is an LA basketball legend. You know what I
Okay.
mean? In the LA streets, you know what I mean? And a lot, the guy that runs the Drew League,
Yeah.
he put my pop's name in the Drew League Hall of Fame.
Wow.
That's so any cat that I talk to that was hooping in the '70s and stuff like that, they know who that is. If they ask my name, they always ask, "Is your daddy Ronald Taylor Sr.?" And I'll say, "Yeah." Now I got to sit through 15, 20 minutes of how great he was. You know what I mean? But my dad never took the time to punch that into me. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? He
Okay.
told me on a couple of occasions, make sure you get a left hand. As an adult, I know how important that is. As a
Right.
matter of fact, in high school, I know how important that is
Gotcha.
when they put a trap on you. You know
Of
what I'm saying?
course.
When they force you to go one way because you only can dribble with your right hand. You
Right.
know,
Right.
um, but I also grew up loving football though. And I think I
Mm-hmm.
would have been a way better football player than a basketball player because I loved everything about football. And I'm talking about the small things like fighting for extra yardage. You know what I'm saying? 4th and 1, 3-2. You know what I'm saying? I understand about the trenches and the offensive line, the defensive line, that front seven. If you got a front seven, you don't need no elite DBs. You know
Facts.
what I mean? But my mom wouldn't allow me to play. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But I wanted to. And I honestly, if I would have just went ahead and did it, she probably would have been cool. But I started too late. I wanted to play Pop Warner,
Okay.
but my step pops and my stepbrother played. He had him groomed. My step pops actually played with John Elway,
Oh wow.
or no, played against John Elway in high
Okay.
school or whatever.
Okay.
So he was a good DB. I think he went to Fairfax. I want to
Okay.
say my step pops went
Okay.
to Fairfax
Wow.
High, and he played against John Elway. But that's my football background. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? But I didn't get nobody push me.
Right.
And that's been a story of my life, is that everything that I've been interested in, I've never been pushed to be better in it. So
Okay.
now I'm kind of like relearning and learning things. Again, I said my examples in the '90s, A Different World, The Cosby Show, Fresh Prince of Bel Air, Martin,
Come on,
the
man.
Wayne brothers. Like those were my examples. So that's the only thing I can go by, is the examples that I had on TV and what I seen in the rap videos.
Oh yeah, and that could be tricky. You talking about rap videos. Um, you mentioned gangs, and like I said, we knew a little. We didn't know a lot. I mean, South Carolina, there was no such thing as I mean, we couldn't spell gangs in South Carolina. Um, and but the little bit that I knew was based on what I saw on the national news. Because, of course, we weren't going to get any kind of coverage or anything like that on local news. But it was just like, they talked about obviously the killing. And I'm just going back into the 80s. They talked about the killings, and that's when I first heard Bloods and Crips. But it wasn't really until, and I think I was listening to your podcast, and you said what you just said earlier, like your neighborhood, and because to me, in my mind, I was like, well, why would somebody join a gang? Like that just don't really make a lot of sense to me. And again, you're talking to a kid from South Carolina, but like you said, if your neighborhood, if you lived on Jefferson Street, and I hope there's no Jefferson Street because I don't want to smoke. If you lived on Jefferson,
it's actually more. It's actually more difficult than that. You know what I'm saying? They got numbers and things like that. But no, you asked the question, well, why would we join the gang? For the simple reason where we're lonely.
Yeah.
In the 3rd, 4th grade, I was coming home by myself. No older brother. My younger brother wasn't born yet. We're 7 years apart.
Okay.
So my younger brother didn't come until about 2 or 3 years later.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I'm walking home, eating Teddy Grahams, watching the Animaniacs by myself. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's what they needed. And the lie that was told to you was you're going to have a brotherhood. Girls are going to like you. That's that's all you want, is to be cool with some cats and some girls that's attracted to you.
Right.
But they never tell you the dark side of it. You know what I mean? You don't get that until you get older. You're gonna end up in jail or in jail. I mean, in dead or in jail, which is true. But just seeing a gang of cats walking together everywhere together, it was like a unity. You know what I'm saying? And then girls were a part of it. You know what I mean? Not just girls on the outside, but there was actually girls from the gang.
Wow.
And it's like you see that, and everything is uniforms. Cats got on khakis, cut off khakis, house slippers, red or blue bandanas, belt buckles with your initials in it. Like that was a uniform. You know what I mean? So it was like, dang, it's tempting.
Right.
Until you start to see some of those fights, and you're like, hold up. Wait a minute. I didn't sign up to fight all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I will. I think on one of my episodes, I think coming out next week, I did say I was in like a feeder gang, which is like a crew. And a lot of cats start off like that. They start off in a crew or whatever. The crew would be called something like Gap. This is a true story. There was a clique in middle school called Gap, gorgeous ass pimps. I know it's funny. Cal. I know y'all laughing at me in South Carolina, but the fact,
hey, Palin, we could have had gorgeous ass pimps in Florence, man.
Hey,
y'all supposed to come up with something bigger than that.
Hey, nationwide, we had Nike. We had Nike. Niggas intentionally corrupting everything. Notice how the K,
right?
Is, you know what I'm saying, replaced the C, but Nike is not spelled with a C. You know, we had girl cliques. What was it? Guess. Get them, use them, excuse them, sending them sprung. You know what I'm saying? We had DKNY.
My God.
We had cliques out there, but some of those cliques turned into, that was like, it was like the minor leagues.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know what I mean? And then so I had my hands in it. When Nip said, take you behind that building, make you expose your rage. Yeah, that was real talk.
That's the thing, like, because even hearing that story, it takes me back to, like I said, what I heard on TV about, the violence and everything like that. And then right around late 87, 88, I get introduced to Eazy-E and NWA. So by the time, now at this point, I'm in, what was I, middle school, I think? No, maybe I just started high school, I think. And my boy, who I was telling you about, Jay Fresh off air, who lives out there, he was the one that put me on, because he was the one cat from Florence who listened to West Coast music. Like I don't know how he found Eazy-E and NWA, but he was the first person that I knew that got into it and was into Eazy-E, NWA, King T, all of the Too Short, all of the people who were out from the West Coast. at that particular time. And so listening to what Easy and Dre and Cube and Ren talked about made me think like the shit was real. Like, so we were like, so I was like, damn, LA don't sound like no place I want to be. And so I was terrified. So we come out there. So in 87, January of 87, I come out there to Pasadena. My uncle's playing for the New York Giants at the time, and then the Super Bowl. And so they go. So we're staying in Pasadena, but I was scared to go to Pasadena because I didn't know. I was like, Pasadena's LA.
Pasadena's so beautiful.
I know. But here's the thing. But I was scared because I was like, oh shit, that's LA. We don't want to do nothing. I don't want to go nowhere. I don't want to be in the wrong colors in Pasadena. And so, but yeah, so it that kind of molded my idea of what I thought it was. And then as I got older, I realized what it was, what have you. But as we move forward, so you go through that, and then like some of the music that you talked about is some of the same stuff that I listen to. And then I get to, Ice Cube, which was I've done,
I heard that episode.
Yeah,
I listened to that. Yeah.
So
yeah.
And then Ice Cube in the Death Certificate, America's Most Wanted, also NWA's music, that's a precursor, if you will, a sneak peek into what would happen in April of 1992, the riots, Rodney King riots. What do you remember? Because again, I was 92. I was a sophomore in college, so you would have been, so you're 10 years younger than me. So you were older. So you remember. So what do you remember about that time when in the 92 riots? Because I just remember how crazy it was, but I also remember like, yo, they got a video. I
don't know if y'all seen the same coverage that we seen on the news, but my step pops was on the news with a TV falling out the back of his Toyota pickup truck. Yeah, wow. I swear I wish I can get that footage, man. Because back in that was VCR.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So anything that we had to record it on the VCR. Of course, we're not recording the news because I'm not gonna. We're looking at the news because we're getting the play-by-play of everything that's being. All right, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna go back a little bit because I did participate, but when we participated, and when we came back, I swear, Cal, I went with my older brother on a GT on Lilla. I want to see this is old school GT Dyno bike, right? Chrome, everything chrome.
This don't sound good.
Oh man, I'm on the handlebars. Similar to how Snoop was, and
right.
You know what I mean? I'm on the handlebars. We're riding down to it's called Mid City. One of the most popular spots that we have on the west side is a skating ring.
Okay. World
on Wheels, right?
I've heard of it.
Ask the wife about World on Wheels.
I've heard of it.
It's notorious for parking lot shootouts. You know what I'm saying? Because they got the schoolyard Crips over there. It was a mess. But next to it is a plaza that had an ABCs. That's a market, by the way.
Okay.
They call them Ralph's or Kroger's in the Midwest, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So there's a supermarket, and then there was a chain of other different type of stores, like a jewelry store, beauty salons and things like that. And the security back in the day was those wire gates.
Yeah.
We looted that, which was crazy because directly next door, and they knew this. I guess they knew this before we knew, which they sometimes are all the time. They know. They knew. I assumed that they knew the verdict before we knew.
Okay.
Right. There's a police station right next to the plaza.
Word.
Yes, there's a police station. It's still there to this day.
Wow.
The police station. They've changed.
So y'all were looting right next to the police station.
Right next to them, but no officers were there though.
Oh yeah. They probably went down. They probably went downtown.
Yeah. No officers were there. We're tearing that place up. And the one thing that I remember was a lady drove her car through the supermarket. And then the jewelry store. My brother took me directly to the jewelry store. I'm young. I just know I'm about to go get some free stuff. I don't know I don't know how bad this is. I just know we're going to go get some bad stuff. I mean, we're going to go do some bad stuff and get some stuff, right? Influenced by my older brother. And I remember we ran up in the jewelry store. People are already in there. It's crazy. It's fire burning in certain areas. The security gate is mangled and it's just twisted and bent all kind of weird ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's important because as we're getting in there, obviously we got in there too late. But there was one case that was left that was untouched. You know, the jury case.
Mm-hmm.
There's one guy came in there. I don't know if he survived this or not, but he punched the glass and then dragged his whole arm through the whole case just to open it. But it was very strategic though, Cal, because
but you know he messed his arm up.
He messed his arm up, but he somehow got all the jewelry in that case. And the one thing that I remember, and I used to remember her face, I can't anymore. But the gate came down on this girl's shoulder.
Mm.
And I just felt so bad for her because she was crying. It wasn't that bad, but it punctured her. You know what I mean? But I just felt so bad. And then that's when I woke up like, yo, I need to get up out of here. Long story short, the only thing I got out of there was a ball shirt.
Wow.
We got back to the crib. When we left, living room clean. We left the TV on. We come back.
Mm-hmm.
We got quinceañera dresses. We got a new TV. We got boxes everywhere, camcorders, Raider hats, Laker hats. I'm like, yo, it's like I came back to my house and it just turned into a store.
Mm-hmm.
That was my step pops.
Oh,
as
shit.
We're watching the news, though, we see him pull out of a parking lot and the TV rolled off and fell. We see him get out the car, pick the TV up, put it back in there, close the trunk, get home. That was recorded earlier, obviously. So all this was going on while we're getting ready to leave. By the time we left, he must have been coming in, empty the whole. I was like, wow, this is crazy.
Wow, that is crazy. Yeah, and you know, it's funny, man, because I remember all of that stuff like it was yesterday. I mean, like I just remember being in school and I remember them saying, yeah, you know, they got it on tape. You know, there's no way that these cops can get away with this. And I mean, you know, fast forward to today, you know, stuff is on tape and cops still getting away with stuff, but that's another story for another day. But that is funny. That is funny to see your step-pops with stuff coming off. That is crazy.
We talk about that all the time. And then the crazy part is when they do go back, I think the documentary is on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken, or at least was on Netflix. Because that was at that point in time, I think that was our second riot.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then the third one came during the pandemic, which was a totally different riot, you know, totally different compared to the other two. But I just remember this lady saying they should have never messed with Rodney King.
Rodney King, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm still a kid, and I'm like, but I go back to school repeating this. I'm like, yeah, they should have messed with Rodney King. They should have messed with him. I just remember watching the footage on TV, and I'm like, man, they are whooping his.
Well, you know, it was from where we stood in South Carolina. I think for me, just on a personal note, while I even being in college, like in my mindset was like, yo, you probably shouldn't be burning stuff up, but I also understood how they got to that point. And I think that was the difference for me being the age that I was, because, you know, I understand that it didn't just, you know, just like any other riot, it didn't just happen. You know what I'm saying? It was a series of events that led to that. Not just the acquittal, but, you know, the killing of Natasha Harlan, all of that stuff.
That still hurt.
You know, and I, you know, it's funny. Like I remember hearing about it, but I didn't see the video until like years later. I think I might have been an adult, and I was disturbed by what I saw, because I was like, yo, she was walking away, you know, and you pull out a gun and you shoot her and kill her.
And that's like damn near the beginning of the friction between the blacks and the Koreans. Facts. You know what I mean? And and then during the riot, there was a little bit of friction. But the cool part about it is like we try to. When I talk to other people, mainly it's a lot of people that's from the South that I talk to. When I explain to them the racism that we dealt with was different in the South because the white folks, they were scared of us. You know what I mean? That was the only positive thing about having a gang culture is that if you said anything that our ancestors had to hear, oh, we was on your tail immediately. You know what I'm saying? But so it was more of a, yo, if you out here if we gonna make money, let's make money. If not, I'm scared of y'all. Y'all stay over there. So driving through Beverly Hills, Malibu, all these other places, Westwood, Brentwood, Culver City, it was kind of like, it's not like how it is now. It's very diverse in the city.
Right.
But I grew up around Hispanics.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
It was just Black and Hispanics. And then in certain places, you know what I'm saying? Like in the Long Beach area, you got Samoans and Tongans, you know what I'm saying? You got cats from the Philippines, but they all grew up in our culture. You know what I mean? So the relationship between us and Koreans and just Asians in general, it's just different because we did have most of our liquor stores were owned by Asians, you know what I mean? And we were cool, because they had been working in the area or on our block for so many years that they just became, like my mom used to have credit. You know what I'm saying? Go down to Mr. Lee, go give me some green onions and stuff like that. Put it on my tab. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Like we could do that. But there was also that, but we really don't get along like that. Because if you had to pick a side, we know what's going. So with the Hispanics, it was different. Like if you was a Hispanic from South Central and you grew up around Black people, you was one of us. We didn't look at you. We didn't look at you like you're Hispanic. We looked at you as, no, you one of us. You know what I'm saying? We had to the world, it was interracial relationships. To us, it was just a relationship. You know what I mean? But there were also the Hispanics that came from El Salvador, Mexico, and we call them paisas, the ones who wear the scorpion belts with the boots and the shirts tucked in with the cowboy hats and black. They was like how we was blasting Pac and Cube and NWA.
Yeah, they
will bump whatever that they will be bumping that every Saturday morning, and they know that I stay next to them. You know what I'm saying? They parties go until 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Sound like the same music or whatever. But we was used to it, you know what I'm saying? Like I know who to go to if I needed the pinata. It was really like that. Wow. You know what I'm saying? In the neighborhoods. But there was also some that we don't mix, like the F-13s, the 18 streets. I stayed away from them.
Right. Gotcha.
I was scared of gangs. I was terrified.
Wow.
Terrified of them. I knew when they approached me, if they had a reason to approach me, I ain't got no problem with you, brother.
Right.
None.
It's all love.
Because everything that you see in these cartel movies and TV shows and stuff like that, all right. They don't. Look, like I said, the Asians, they had the corner stores. You know what I'm saying? But guess who had the tire shops? Guess who had the chop shops?
No question.
I mean? Yeah.
So tell me about October 1995. I was still in school at that particular time. The OJ verdict. What was LA like then?
Hey, so my wife actually seen it was OJ. Who was driving again?
AC.
She seen them on the freeway. She seen them pass by. It was like an event, because if you stayed anywhere near the 110 freeway, like you was just looking. There was another scene besides that. I don't know if you had to have this. Or at least you had to see this. Have you ever heard of Faces of Death?
Come on now.
Band from America?
Yeah. It's been years since but I was in college when I want to say, I don't know if they came out when I was in college, but I remember watching because I had a VHS tape where I watched them.
Well, yeah, because my obviously my brother put me on.
Okay.
Or whatever. I can't, as an adult, I can't watch it anymore.
No,
I could barely watch it as a kid, but as a kid, we're so we nosy,
Yeah,
inquisitive.
we don't
Because
care.
yeah, so and once you start watching, it's like with scary movies. Once you start watching, you can't stop. And I'm like, but it also set a reality in me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I need to get my life together because I don't want to go. But there was a guy just like OJ on the 110 freeway who ended up committing suicide. And I think this is not the birth of it because we had a few things that happened in LA that was recorded live that
Mm-hmm.
the news had to apologize for.
Oh wow.
But he actually committed suicide. He actually killed his dog and killed himself on the 110 freeway,
Mm.
and they recorded it because they didn't know it was going to happen. His car, he set himself on fire, couldn't take the heat,
Damn.
left his dog in there, but had a shotgun.
Damn.
And right there in broad daylight. And they say they didn't know it was going to happen, but you seen them take the gun out.
Right.
But that same freeway is famous for Mr. OJ in that
Right.
white Bronco. Like that picture, every time I see that picture, I'm like, oh my God.
Man. And I, what I try to tell people, particularly, and when you get a chance, go back and I did a podcast on, I think it was it the 25? Yeah, it was either the 20 or 25-year anniversary of OJ verdict. And I had some audio clips in it, and I was talking about how even at school, we were in the dorm. Everybody, like, cats left class, nobody was at practice, no nothing. And this is a black college campus, right? So all you hear is when you heard not guilty, I heard a roar like we were at a football game.
Yep.
And so we were just so happy, but it was just like, trying to explain to people, what I tried to do in that podcast was explain, like, while he might be a little bit of everything or whatever to people now, OJ Simpson was as big, well, maybe not as big. He might have been as big as Michael Jordan at that particular time. I mean,
I would say he was on the same path,
right,
but fell off.
Yeah,
because this is the same cat that was running through the airport.
Yeah, I mean, he had endorsements. White folks loved him. Black folks, they cared about him and stuff like that. It was just
and being from LA, and by him attending USC, and things like that, I stayed, not intentionally, because I'm, like I said, I'm just a regular kid, regular young cat, but I just so happened to be placed in certain areas at certain times, and I would just hear older people talk. And these just so happen to be the older people that were attending these parties.
Okay.
With OJ and Marcus, Marcus Allen. And stuff like that. So look, if y'all want to know, y'all gotta ask them. I wasn't there.
Right.
I wasn't in the huddle.
But you heard some things.
Yeah, I heard some things. But I knew how important OJ was in general.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So and then, like, even though back then we did have the Raiders, obviously my Lakers and the Dodgers and stuff like that, but SC was a second. I mean, and besides the Rams, they were a pro team.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that extended all the way down to the Reggie Bush era. You know what I'm saying? That was our professional team. So when you are an alumni or anything that's cut from that cloth of USC, you're important for that alone. No matter what you do in the NFL, no matter what you do in the NBA. Well, yeah, because USC basketball is different. So USC football and UCLA basketball is on the same. Boy, we're actually higher because we got more championships. But as far as the respect, you know what I mean? Like, OJ can go anywhere. Marcus Allen can go anywhere. You know what I mean? So yeah, his name was very important. And as I got older, I started to realize, like, he did beat the case, but two people still lost their lives.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not only that, is like it started a whole it added to racial tension. And like I said, the racial tension out here was different because they didn't have the balls to call us the N-word. But if we worked for them, they knew how to get to us through our money. You know what I mean? And that was, you know what I'm saying? So they're not going to disrespect it. It's not how it is now, which is kind of weird, where they're a little bit more bold, but maybe that's because of the Trump effect. But prior to that, we wouldn't get none of that.
No doubt. Well, being a great podcast that you are, you actually segue right into the direction I want to go. Sports. Huge sports fan. Obviously, I'm not going to have you on this podcast and we not talk about the Lakers. But let's go back. So you missed. I won't say you missed, but you were young for the Showtime era. I came up with because I started watching NBA in 1980. Magic,
Mm-hmm.
I think he had just gotten to the league. He and Bird,
Mm-hmm.
but Kobe Bean Bryant.
Oh
Man, I don't know if I told you this, but like for a large part of Kobe's career, I didn't like Kobe.
Oh, that's
I,
you
I didn't, Baylor. I didn't. But here's the thing, Baylor. I really had no reason not to like him, other than the fact that Jordan was my guy, and I felt like he was trying to be Jordan, which he was, but in a sense. But when you look back on it, Kobe was being who he was, and I think what happened was when I became what I would here's what I would always say. I would be like, man, I don't like Kobe. I was like, I respect this game, but I don't like him. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't strike me as somebody that I would want to hang out with. I would want to hang out with Shaq. Seems like the type of cat you want to hang out because he's big, he's funny, he's a big, gentle giant. So, but as far as Kobe was, when Kobe tore his Achilles, that's when I got behind him. Okay. And I was like, yo, I said, man, because you know what happened, man, to a point as a sports fan, I realized that we're not going to see this again. As far as a player, I was like, I'm not going to see this again. And even if you say, okay, he's the second closest thing to Jordan, what's wrong with that? So I started watching him more, liking him. And I think, after everything that happened in Colorado, when Kobe became quote unquote the Mamba, he stopped work. Cause see, the thing about it was that he wanted to be like Mike, but he also wanted people to like him. Mm-hmm. And I think after all of that stuff happened, whether, and I'm not even going to talk about what side of the fence people are on, but he really, I think, became who he was. And he was like, look, I'm going to be me. I'm not going to be Jordan. I'm going to say what I want to say. I'm going to do what I want to do. And the people that like me, that will, or love me, will continue to love me for whatever reason. And so that's when I got on the Kobe train. And, I watched him more. And, I was kind of sad to see him retire because I think he still had more left in him.
You know how emotional we was when he retired?
I'm about to get to that. So my question to you is, let's start back from the beginning. What was it like? Because you saw him as a kid. That's one of the things that makes Kobe different from a lot of other stars is we
watched him grow.
You literally watched him grow as an 18-year-old kid when he came to the LA. When he was shooting air balls in the playoffs.
Oh man, Utah.
To becoming, I remember that game. to becoming an all-star champion. Went through the whole thing with Shaq. Shaq leaves, gets 2 more of the POW, and becoming the great legend that he became. Ambassador for the game, ambassador for the women's game. All of these accolades that he got.
2 retired jerseys, by the way. Every time I go to the Staples Center and I look up, I
ain't even get a chance to say that, Baylor. I ain't even get a chance to say that. So I'm gonna stop talking about Kobe. Tell me, what was it like watching him on a nightly basis? Because we didn't have League Pass back in the day, so you saw him every night. So see, your perspective is different because now I know Lakers fans. Some of my homeboys, they are diehard Lakers fans. Been Lakers fans since Magic, but what was it like watching him on a night-to-night basis? And then 2-part question. What was it like watching him? And then what was your favorite memory or memories of Kobe on the court?
First of all, if any diehard Laker fan, they could really be diehard, tell you that from the moment he got drafted, they liked him, they're lying. Kobe had 0 fans in LA when he first came aboard. And I'm going to tell you why. Mm-hmm. For the same reason that you said, there was already a Michael Jordan, right?
Right.
So obviously, when I get to the mature stage, I'll break down why I feel like he might be better than MJ. But I'll get to that.
Okay.
But what's wrong with? And I told you, I'm giving you flowers. I feel like you are an older brother that I needed at that age to push me to where I needed to be in life.
Okay.
I think that's the same thing. He just wanted to be as great or even better than the person that he looked up to. We criticize him because we're not used to somebody saying, you know what, I want to be like. And the crazy part about it is Michael Jordan got commercials saying sometimes I want to be like Mike. He actually wanted to be like Mike and beat
Literally.
Mike.
Literally.
But he had this arrogance to him that we wasn't used to because I grew up watching Showtime. Showtime, it was Magic Johnson. You got to understand, he is like the drunk uncle that don't drink. He is like the uncle that says, true story, lay down in his pickup truck, lay down, and no seatbelts back there. It's freezing outside, but lay flat down. We about to go somewhere. That's the uncle he is. It seemed like every time on a fast break, it seemed like he was smiling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a certain vibe that the Showtime presented. Then a whole nother era started. We're not used to it. You know what I'm saying? Where's my 6'9" point guard at? You know what I mean?
Right.
And then you bring in this Kobe kid who is extremely young, cocky
as hell.
And we like, he from Philly? Who is this cat? Who is this cat? And then the air balls don't help.
Nope.
But then we appreciate the air balls now because of what his mindset was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, bro, I got to go out there and I got to get it. This was Mamba mentality before Mamba mentality.
Right.
So growing up, we know about the Brandy going to prom thing. Mm-hmm. We hear the stories about him going to the liquor store, but not able to buy anything because he's underage. We hearing all these different stories, and I actually got to meet him because he opened up one of the parks or reopened up one of the parks before. But the one thing that I will always and it's so many, but the one thing that I appreciated was during the lockout. I think 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Was it 2011? I feel like it was before that. I could have my years mixed around, but we had a lockout. The NBA had a lockout.
I think it was 2011. I think so.
Yeah. So it was a lockout, and he decided, hey, and I want to say this could have been the birth of something new, but he came to the Drew League.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because Kobe was a cat that went everywhere with no bodyguards. He didn't start having he really didn't have them like that until he retired because he started to coach his daughter. Because he would be at some of the games, like he would be coaching at some of the tournaments that my son would be playing at. I'll be wondering like why one side of the gym is so lopsided and it's just two teams over here with a few parents. It's like Kobe. Y'all not gonna watch our kids play, and they just watching Kobe coach. That's all they do. And they're not even watching his daughter. They're watching him coach. They're watching him stand up and sit down. But that lockout, and he came to complain and Drew, like the Drew history real quick, they played in like 2 or 3 different gyms. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So he played in, if I want to say, I think he played in the second gym, the Washington gym. And
is that the one that we normally see on TV with the brick?
Nah, that's the latest gym. That's actually at a high school now.
Okay, gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Because Drew is named after Drew Middle School, and it was actually in a like where Baron Davis and them used to play at.
Yeah, Baron Davis.
Middle school gym where it's not a glass backboard. You know what I'm saying? It's not a glass backboard, and it's just a regular middle school size court, one court. That went to another park. Then it went to Drew High School and King Drew High School. And so it's a better court, obviously more room and things like that. The one thing I always loved about the Drew League is they kept it free. So you can come at any time when there's games. And then now, because Kobe sparked it off, you had cats coming from LA. You already had cats coming back, the Baron Davises and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But then the LeBron started to come. Then the KD started to come.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Now, all of a sudden, it's just you got to come through the Drew League in the off season now. If you don't come through the Drew League, it don't matter. You know what I'm saying? As soon as you get bumped out of the playoffs, or as soon as you get eliminated from playoff contention, the Drew League is about to fire up in the summer, or you can play in the VBL. Shout out to Meta World Peace, because he decides that he wants to play on concrete for the rest of his life. That's cool. But that's one of my biggest memories, is that he like, no, I gotta play, and he understood the assignment of giving LA a show and showing them how authentic he is. This is why, for months after he passed away, I'm not lying to you, I cannot embellish not one bit. That first week, man, you could hear the wind blow through the city.
Wow.
It was so quiet. People walk with their heads down. It was very sad. When it comes to Kobe and Nip, I can't talk about him too long. It's too emotional. But Kobe was our adopted brother right there. You know what I'm saying? He was the kid. He was to the Lakers and to the city, that was their son.
Yeah.
He was like, that was my brother.
That was brother. Right.
You know what I mean? And he was and then I started to appreciate him more after he graduated. Well, in a way, after he retired, because he went into fatherhood. Like, strong, and I was taking pointers from him, you know what I'm saying, without him even knowing. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I just love it. And the way he was just breaking down the game and things like that, and it was just
it's always good to get that. That's why I had to ask, because it's always good to get that perspective from someone who watched him, like I said, not on League Pass, but someone who watched him night in, night out, year in, year out, because again, that's somebody who who you looked up to and that you saw the growth. I just it's and I'm not gonna stay on Kobe because I don't want to make you sad. I just, one of the hardest things I had to do was when he died. I had to call my son who was off at college. I had to call him and tell him, because I knew that he didn't get I got the news before he did. And it's weird because I remember I got a text and I was like, nah, this, how like you see something, I was like, nah, this ain't right. And then so I went to, like we all do, Twitter, and the first thing I saw was on like a TMZ headline. I was like, nah. And then because like the first reports was that his daughters, like all of his daughters, were on the plane on the helicopter with him.
They had his whole family, Rick, everybody on the plane.
I was like, nah, this ain't right. And then I think when I finally got the truth, I was shocked. I was stunned because I had just seen the interview, which probably was one of the last interviews he did when he did with All the Smoke. And I just remember watching that interview, and I was like, man, I was like, where I had said before, I didn't think I could hang with Kobe. This Kobe was a Kobe that I could hang with. I was like, man, he's a father. He's kicking it. He's funny. He's all of the things that you should be at 40, 41, 42 years old, however old he was. And I just remember making that phone call. I called because my son, our oldest son, he, Kobe, like Jordan was my guy, but Kobe was his guy. So it kind of hit me like Kobe is his Jordan. So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say. Cause like I said, he didn't call me, so I had to call him. So I'm like, I know that he doesn't know. And we talked about it. We didn't talk long cause I knew he was going to be emotional about it. And, so I let him have that time, but it's weird, man. Cause like for somebody who didn't grow up watching Kobe or anything like that, like, like you guys did, I never watched any news coverage of, I don't know where the site was. I didn't see any, I couldn't bring myself, because to me, if I looked at that kind of stuff, then I'd have to accept his death. Yeah. And it took me a long time to accept the fact that he was gone.
Yeah.
And, and that just, it was just crazy. And another person that you mentioned a little earlier, I wanted to get your perspective on somebody who I came to late. Nipsey Hussle. And when I say I came to Nipsey late, I came to Nipsey really late. I remember hearing about the Crenshaw mixtape, and I was like, but what we heard was that this guy Nipsey Hussle was selling this tape for $100.
$100,
I I went to Right Mind sells a mixtape for 100, and I heard Jay-Z bought like a bunch of them, like 1,000 of them, something like that. I was like, okay, so you know how it is with hip hop. If Jay fucking with him, he got to, it was the cosign thing in hip hop.
It was a stamp.
I'm like, okay, okay. So if Jay-Z like him, and then I heard him on, I think the first song I heard him on was the Ninth Wonder joint. I can't remember the name. I think K Dot was on that song too, and I was like, okay, he's good. He can rap. He can really rap. And but I didn't hear much. I heard songs here, there, and then when the Victory Lap came out, I want to say like in November, or whatever, it came out. I listened to it. Maybe I was listening to somebody's podcast, and they were talking about, and they were going on and on and on about how dope Victory Lap was. And so I was like, okay, I said, so I know Nipsey can rap. I was like, okay, let me listen to it. So maybe about a month and a half after it came out. And of course, first song comes on. And I always said, like with hip hop, if you're going to get me, you got to have a bar or something in a song that makes me stop. And he said in the song, he said, circle got smaller, everybody can't go.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit. Yeah. I was like,
yeah.
I was like, he gets it. And I started bumping it after that. So man, talk to me about Nipsey, man. I mean, who was he outside of what we know, but who was he to you, and who was he to LA?
All right, so there's two names that I'm gonna bring up that is cemented in LA's history, not just LA's history, but hip hop history for LA as well. Obviously, that's Eazy-E and Tupac.
Facts.
Eazy-E is like it's like a LA god, right?
Yeah.
Nip is like that too. Nip
Okay.
Nip is like our Jesus. And I'm gonna say this, not just in his music, because in his music he explained the gang culture of LA during his time period, his business goals, and he was telling us how we need to do it, what we need to do, right? The reason why his death was so impactful is because he tried to do what a lot of other people cannot do today and what they couldn't do back then, which was, yo, I mess with YG.
Right.
Outside of this music stuff,
yeah,
we should be shooting and fighting against each other. I'm cool on all that. I still wear my blue flag. He wears his red flag, but we're about to get this money, man. I'm no longer about to tear down my brother from the opposite side. And I'm like, dang, finally. Now, this has happened before. You know what I'm saying? For a lot of people out there don't know West Side Connection.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But it didn't feel like what Nipsey had actually or was trying to do. And that day, I think everybody should know that day he was supposed to meet with the police department and the mayor to talk about how we were going to somewhat resolve this gang violence. One of the biggest gang rivals in LA is the 8-Trays and the 6-O's. They was all on the same block marching together. No, we're talking about civil war here.
Right.
You know what I mean?
In the streets.
Together because of this man's death. Because and every show that I did after that, if I was on somebody else's platform, I end up crying. Because I was trying to explain, I recorded the show that night crying. I still got that show. And because when you born and raised in the city and you've been through all this crap, the gang violence and things like that, but somebody with a fresh voice, a fresh breath of air come through where you come from and probably has been through more violent situations than you have, say like, look, man, I'm trying to turn a different corner and I'm trying to build an empire the right way. Right. And it's like we all claim to be leaders until we finally see a leader. And it's okay to walk behind. We just finished talking about Kobe and how he followed the steps of Michael Jordan. And it's like we claim to be a leader, but I'm 5 years older than Nip, and I looked up to him.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it was just that cat was powerful, man. I'm
Yeah.
talking about, and I get it. Maybe people don't understand. Like, yo, that's just a man. That's just one of those LA rappers. And I'm like, nah, he wasn't.
Nah,
Nah, he
nah,
wasn't.
nah.
Don't. Nah, he wasn't. Because just how they felt when Big passed away and he was riding through Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Like, I talked to my boy Goldie, he from Louisiana. I was like, I know Soldier Slim had to been, he had to been something. You know what I'm saying? If he would have made it. But Nip was, man, that's something different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We don't even talk about, in all due respect, because we got the big adoption agency out here. You know what I'm saying? We got Pac, we got Corrupt, we got Ice-T, we got Kobe.
Right.
And once you come out here, you sign up,
Right.
you are a part of this family. You know what I mean? And we take care of them. Hey, shout out to Alex Caruso. People's asking me, how do you give this boy so much credit? And he got a murals and stuff like that because he's a good dude. He gives back to the community and he can hoop. There you go, Caruso. A couple of murals around the city for you.
Yeah.
Nip is the same way. There's murals around the city where they have Nip, Kobe, Eazy-E, Westbrook, all on the same. And I'm like, that's just how it is. You know what I mean?
It's funny you mentioned that because where the hell was I? I told you I came out to LA this past December, and I was, damn it, what was that? I cannot remember the name of that street to save my life. I'll probably remember it once we get off this podcast. But I was sitting at a light, and I looked to my left. To my left, there was a mural of Kobe on a building, and when I looked to the right, there was a mural of Nipsey. Mm-hmm. I was like, you will never see no shit like that nowhere else in the world.
And a lot of them are downtown. And
yeah, this was downtown. I cannot remember what street I was on. I'll think of it. Probably, like I said, probably later after text you. But
every corner you've been, you got Kobe, you got his daughter, you got Nip, and like I said, when you come back south towards South Central area, the Inglewoods, the Comptons, and stuff like that, you'll see murals of Eazy-E, you'll see murals of Pac, and you'll see murals of like everybody. You know what I mean? Like, and even the cats that's still with us, Ice Cube, like I said, Westbrook. One day I'm gonna go over there and I'm gonna get a picture of it. But literally, there's a mural of Nip and Westbrook and Ice Cube, and it's crazy.
And you know what you said is true. They don't do that, and they don't embrace. He wasn't just another rapper. Because keep in mind, folks, when he passed, his services were at the Staples Center where the Lakers play.
Yes,
they're not doing that just for any old body. He wasn't just another rapper.
Because the other person we had it for was Michael Jackson, and that was it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. They don't do that type of stuff for just any old body, and I think that speaks volumes about who Nipsey was and what he was trying to accomplish in the time that he was here. Again, incredible rapper, but even in listening to, when I go back and listen to Victory Lap, like you said, even the gang talk is not necessarily promoting it. He's talking more so about what he went through and where he was, but there's also messages in there about where he was going and I tell people all the time, like, well, it was, I think anything else was, I think, they scratching the surface on where he was going to be, and but still a great legendary person, especially in the streets of LA, and not just LA, but just all over the world. I mean, he's loved and still celebrated to this day. He's he's definitely LA. Before we get out of here, man, tell folks where they can listen to you, where they can find your pod, because I mentioned at the beginning, you got 15, and that it's funny. Because when I hit you up about doing a podcast, I was like, "Hey, man, I don't know what your schedule's like. I'll stay up late since I'm on the East Coast, you're on the West Coast. I'll stay up late if I need to. I want to get this done. I was like, but I know you got, family and you got 50,000 podcasts.
Yeah.
So tell folks where they can catch you at, man.
Well, for all of my podcasts, for my personal podcast, BTG for President and Open Run with BTG, a part of the Rare Science Network. That's my guys over there in Atlanta. The No Nonsense Show. That and my Open Run with BTG is a sports show that drops every Wednesday. BTG for President drops every Thursday, but in the future, I'm getting so busy that I'm just gonna be dropping this show whenever I can. But as of right now, is Wednesday and Thursday back to back. And then I'm also a part of the Breaks Radio. We record every Wednesday, so those episodes should either be coming out every, I think, Thursday or Friday, and it's pretty much of us talking hip hop, the culture of hip hop, and certain events, things like that. I'm also a part of the Black Horror Humor podcast, where me, my boy Drake, Mr. D713, and Lear from Take Up Space Podcast, and then Drake from Everything Culture Podcast. We sit and watch scary movies together. It's basically black folks watching scary movies.
Black folks watching scary movies.
Yeah, man, it's pretty fun. And then we have the Lunch Break, crew, the Lunch Break Productions. I'm more of a guidance counselor / janitor / I don't know, OG if you want to call me to that company and brand, where they have at-risk therapy and so many other podcasts under that production and under that brand. So I got my hands on a lot of different stuff, but that's just me just being creative with other people.
Bro, do you have time to sleep?
I do something. Yeah, it kind of
because I should have said at the beginning, you're a family man. You and your wife been together. How long y'all been together?
We've been married for 10 years. We reached 10. We reached 10 this year in July 17th.
Congrats.
But we've been together for 13 years, I want to say. Yeah.
So when people ask you that, you know what you should just say? They're like, man, how long y'all been together? You just say forever.
Forever, man, forever. Yeah, that's my dog right there.
And y'all have kids.
Yeah. We got the Bobby Brown of the whole family. That's my daughter Bailey. She runs everything up in here. And then my son Case. And I got two other kids. I got a total of 4 kids. But the 2 kids that stay with me, my 2 kids that stay with me, Case and Bailey. They something else. Bailey was supposed to be born in the 80s. She's an 80s
kid.
Yeah, because she has this thing with boxes. So moving boxes or boxes from Amazon. She builds a homeless shelter downstairs in my living room, and she builds like these because she's a big Roblox and
my daughter's into that too.
Roblox and Minecraft. So she builds.
How old is she?
She's 5. She turns 6. She turns 6 next month. Yeah,
mine's 10. That Roblox stuff. I'm like, man. I was like, she's like, Daddy, I'm doing this. I was like, okay, if you want to.
Yeah. So that's my that's the Fantastic Four. And yeah, we still go on our family vacations. I try to go on as many vacations as I can without my kids. I don't like kicking it with my kids.
Thanks.
I do not like kicking with them, but
I like kicking with my kids. I like to do stuff without them too, though, because I do everything with them.
That's the thing, though. We do more stuff with them than we do without them. Like we have Nerf gun fights, we play basketball, we take them swimming. I'm tired of being a responsible parent. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot. Like I didn't get this much. I maybe should have gotten it, but I see. Wow, it's a lot. It's a lot. But those you can also find me on Twitter at Baylorism. At Baylor the Great on all rest of the social media platforms. And but I mainly talk to people on Twitter and IG. TikTok, I think TikTok is Baylorism as well. So you can check out whatever videos I make on TikTok.
Now one last question. I know you talked about it because I think one of the first times I heard you was on shout out to Jay Boog. You did a takeover for Jay Boog's podcast. So your real name isn't Baylor.
My last name is Taylor.
Gotcha.
So now you seeing where the gang culture comes in at. It's all tied together, Cal. Like,
because what's funny? I think before you explained it, for some reason I was like, well, maybe he went to Baylor. Because Baylor is just like a very random name,
I've never been to the University of Baylor. I think they do have a high powered offense though, but
they do.
For the listeners, hey, I went to Fremont High. That's predominantly Bloods. So I had a lot of blood homies. I was never from any type of blood gang in my life. Never, ever. But I was associated with them in high school. The middle school I went to was predominantly Crips.
Oh,
you know what I mean? I got friends. I got Crip friends. I got blood friends. You know what I mean? We all kicked it together. Some of them didn't get along. I got relatives as Crips, and I got relatives from the same gang that Nip is from. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
But I went to high school with Bloods, and so you can just imagine those conversations during lunch. You know what I'm saying? In nutrition, hey, Baylor. You know what I'm saying? And then it just stuck. Baylor passed me the rock. Baylor, swing it over here. And I'm like,
so they gave you the name Baylor. Wow.
I can't look. I've tried, Cal. I've tried to come up with my own nicknames. It's not working.
You can't. You're Baylor now.
You can't get away from it. So I've been Baylor. I've been Baylor since the 10th grade.
Okay, so see, that's what makes it even doper, because it's not like you came up with 12 Kyle is me. My real name is Kyle. Somebody actually asked me that on Twitter one day. So, man, is your name Kyle? Like, yeah, my name, that's on my birth certificate, Kyle. Okay. But so mine was created, but you really have been. So there's people in the streets that know you as Baylor. That's funny.
There's a lot of people in the streets that don't know my real name, and this is the crazy part. Vice versa. I have a lot of homies, and I've never known their real government. Wow. I never knew their real government unless I was in class with you, and the teacher read off your name. Mm-hmm. I never knew their real name. So if you say, "Yo, did Darian come to class?" I'm like, "Who?" Are you talking about G? You talking about G boy? Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, no, he didn't come in today. But a lot of people don't know that my real name is Ronald Taylor Jr. My family on my mom's side, they call me Ronnie. On my daddy's side, they call me Ron or Ron. Mm-hmm. But in the streets, is either you know me as Ronald as a classmate, because remember there was no Baylor in middle school. It was only Ronald. So if you didn't go to high school with me, but middle school, you still know me as Ronald. Right. But if you went to high school with me, everybody know my name is Baylor. It's Baylor. So if you ask me, you know how many times I gotta explain that to when I give out my personal email and it's Baylor the Great at Yahoo. They're like, so why is it? Never mind, you not. Just right. Just email me. Just email me.
Right. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that is so funny. Well, you folks, you got his information. You know where to find him. Check his podcast out, man. It's again, he bends the rules because he does. He's just gonna come in and just talk, but it is a great listen. This is his first time on his podcast. I promise you guys, it will not be his last, because
we got it. I gotta come back because I got some things to talk about, man.
For sure. And he's issued a challenge to me in an upcoming podcast at the time of this recording that I'm going to record to talk about Club Kyle. That's going to be the name of the podcast, and I'm talking about my clubbing days. And he had some stories about Club Baylor and his days of partying, but I think mine might be a little bit liver. So be on the lookout for that upcoming podcast. But you guys know where to find me. This podcast is being broadcast every Thursday at midnight. Something I'm doing a little different now is that we're putting also some content on YouTube. So check out the YouTube channel. And doing some bonus episodes also that will drop on Sundays at midnight. So that's going to do it for us. So for my man Baylor the Great,
I appreciate this.
I'm your boy 12 Kyle. This has been California Love with my man Baylor. We'll catch you guys next time. 5,000.
Yeah.